As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, will be posted to our YouTube channel at a later date. So everyone, welcome to this Board of Directors meeting Wednesday, July 6th, 2022. Are there any additional agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on. Is there a declaration of conflict of interest from anyone? Seeing none, then I have a motion that the minutes of the LPRCA Board of Directors meeting held June 1st, 2022 be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Dave and Ian. Is there any discussion? Are there any omissions, corrections required? Then is there any opposed? I'll call for the vote. That's carried. Business arising from the previous minutes, there's none. So we have the review of committee minutes, and the first one, 6A, is the Bankers Museum Committee on pages 6 to 7 on your agenda. Are there any questions about the Bacchus Museum Committee minutes? Yes, Mike.
Chair, these minutes are November the 15th of last year. And there has been meetings since then.
Just one.
One?
Yeah.
So they're not here yet.
No.
I just wondered if that was the past month, but.
Yeah, so the past month you just passed November's.
Yeah.
So we have to wait till the.
Till the committee meets
passes.
again. Okay.
That was just held 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
just
Dave.
for Councillor Columbus's query, Betty Cheney has been reelected for the chair of the Backers Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Most of the officers are the same.
Thank you, Dave, for stating that. So I have a motion that the minutes of the Bacchus Museum Committee meeting of November 15, 2021 be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Tom and Seward. Is there any discussion about this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So then we go to
Sixteen.
6B is the Lee Brown Marsh Management Committee meeting of December the 17th, 2021, pages 8 to 11. And Judy, did you want to speak to that?
I have a report later to address the issue, but in the minutes, there is a new member that Lee Brown wants to formally appoint, have the board endorse. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I can speak to any of the specific items.
So just to enlighten you, in other words, the Lee Brown Marsh Committee is recommending that Lou Kojak be appointed as member in lieu of Barry Smith, who passed away. Are there any questions about this? Okay, then I have a motion that the minutes of the Lee Brown Marsh Committee meeting held December 17, 2021 be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mike and Dave. So is there anyone that has any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? None, that's carried. is the development applications, section 28 regulations, approved permits. I believe there's 33 of them.
That's what I counted too.
Yeah. So Lori, is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, I just wanted to note one set of applications here that's on page 14, starting with 11422, just because they're a little bit different. So Rogers Communications is running cable, underground cable up and down every road, I think, in North County. And so rather than have to have an application for every crossing that they have to make of every water course and wetland in the entire county, they have made an application that's for different types of crossings. So they're giving basically a generalized plan for how they would make a water crossing, a box culvert crossing, a steel culvert, or a wetland crossing with all of the attached in mitigation measures they're taking for each type, etc. And so we're really just dealing with these 4 general permits here that will basically allow them to make all of these different types of crossings.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Lori? Seeing none, yes, Mike.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out application number LPRCA 132/22 on page 18. And it talks about a pond, an existing irrigation pond to create a more natural design. If a farmer wants to dig out his pond, once they silt up, do they have to come to the LPRCA for a permit?
Yes,
They do.
just if it's in a regulated area. And then it's depending on why it's in a regulated area, it might make a difference where they dispose of their material.
And do you feel that you're getting all of them because they're,
No,
no, okay. So basically the honest ones are applying and the not so honest ones are not.
or the ones that know about the regulation are applying, and a lot of people don't know.
Mr. Chair, but there's also a lot of the irrigation ponds that are outside of the regulated
Oh, yeah,
area.
certainly.
Like, if it's in the middle of a field,
Yeah.
not likely regulated. It's when it's close to a swamp or a wetland, or it's close to the creek. Some people do the sort of line by the creek, offline, or whatever you want to call it. So that's when they need a permit.
Okay, thank you.
Tom,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Lori. Lori, I'm referring to the application number 13322. It's about Hastings Drive. The proposed work is some shoreline protection repair. And the second point there is, and that's on agenda page 19 for my colleagues. It says that proposal is not in accordance with our currently approved shoreline management plan. And it goes on to explain that the emergency repair and the extension of shoreline protection to fill gaps is supported because of that previous decision. In this case, are both of those true, that it is an emergency repair and it's filling a gap between properties?
Well, now that the water level is dropping, I'm not sure that they're all emergency repairs anymore, although we're still processing them in the same way. But this is a repair of an existing rubble pile and whatever that he has there now. Typically, they've been putting in the cedar posts and to hold the stones from being pulled out by the waves. And it's, most of them are doing something like that, and it's effective for a short period of time, a few years maybe, but the posts will get broken, the stones will start to get drug out, and then they'll have to put them back and replace the poles, and that's the types of repairs that we've been pretty much talking about as far as Hastings is concerned. The shoreline management plan says this is a dynamic beach, and it will come in and go out, and don't touch it. like, just let it be. But as soon as the high water started to come up in 2017, that wasn't satisfying people at all, and the board made this resolution after there were some delegations and presentations, so we're still using it, although it's not so much an emergency now.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And Mr. Chair, just so, Lori, the reason I'm asking is that pretty much whenever there is a movement of rock, gravel, soil, a dump truck, an excavator on Hastings Drive, I hear about it because someone is thinking that someone is doing something without permission. So I'm glad to hear that this is based on a previous decision about emergency repair.
Right.
Thank you.
We've been having a lot of violations this summer getting reported. We appreciate when you report them because we don't drive all those roads every week to know. So we're trying to follow up on it.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You, any other question?
I did, thank you, and through you. My question is about application 111/22. It's on page 13 of our agenda. 3rd Avenue in Simcoe. I had a question about fill that's used for grading or excavated materials. What is the responsibility of the Conservation Authority when materials are deposited on a site and they're either in this area in Simcoe, sometimes we have individuals that have some material piles that are just left. I was wondering what the responsibility of the Conservation Authority is in closing out that ticket. Like, are we concerned that there might be extra fill left on the site in a pile? Are we concerned that materials that are excavated and not, replaced? I'm just concerned about dirt piles essentially on a property that may be left there. And is that the responsibility of Norfolk County to have a bylaw complaint if materials are left, or what sort of checks and balances do the Conservation Authority have when fill is being deposited on a site or excavated materials are left in a pile, like when something like a septic tank is put in?
If it's a regulated area, like this one must be, then they need a permit to either place fill, excavate, regrade, whatever. They need a permit to do that. If they had a permit, for example, for this septic, and they would have to say where they were going to place the material. If it was just left there, then we could ask them to move it. So then it would basically be a violation, right? We could ask them to move it. We can't force them to move it without going through the court, but lots of people will do it. But the trick is if we know that the problem is there, because we absolutely do not have the staff to follow up on every permit that we issue. We flag a few and try and get to them, but we don't see them all. So again, it's a case of.
It's a complaint-based system, essentially, to Norfolk County bylaw. If materials are left behind after the work is complete.
As far as our permits are concerned, that's about the case. And maybe for Norfolk County, theirs would be a site plan control bylaw or something like that, which is entirely different, but I suppose they could follow up on it the same. And whether it's complete, whether theirs is complaint based, I don't know. It depends how well staffed they are.
So in that particular area, close to the water course in Simcoe, there are some dirt piles that are left behind. And I have been advising individuals that want to complain about that to go through our bylaw process. I was just wondering what our process is after a job's been completed. If there's a site inspection, why is there still a dirt pile?
Yeah.
Essentially is my question.
Right. So we would love it if the county would look after it, but if it's reported to us, then we will go and look at it. If a permit has been issued, or maybe if one hasn't been issued and it's actually there illegally, then we'll try and follow up on that.
Are there any other questions for Laura? Okay. I have a motion. The LPRCA Board of Directors receives the Section 28 regulations, approved permits, report dated July 6, 2022 as information. I have a mover and a seconder. Yeah. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. So then we go to the general manager's report. 9A. And that's the verb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chair Schultz and I attended the Conservation Ontario Virtual Council meeting on June 20th, 2022. Kim Gavin, who was the general manager of Conservation Ontario, she has retired effective June 30th. And council has appointed Bonnie Fox as the interim general manager while there's an executive search ongoing. To date, we learned that there's been 5 conservation authorities that have had a agricultural rep appointed. We are not one of them. We're not getting a lot of information out of the ministry. It seems to be they're even at their own timetable, and there doesn't seem to be any rationale, but there's been 5 ag reps appointed to date. I know we've had people that applied for Long Point agricultural rep, but I'm not sure if we'll ever have a rep or not. I also just wanted to share some information about the level on the Lake Erie. We don't have the information for June yet, but in the month of May, Lake Erie rose 5 centimeters, which was the same as the long-term average rise for previous Mays. And also Lake Erie, at the beginning of June, the water level was 33 centimeters above average. But this is a good part. It was 2 centimeters below last year's level at the beginning of June. And it's 42 centimeters below the recorded high. But the level currently is still showing like at the 19th highest on record. But Maureen and I were talking, and the trend seems to be that the water is slowly going down through the month of June. So we'll wait and see what the actual report says, but we definitely think it's trending in the right direction. Staff has reviewed 144 permit applications as of June compared to 151 permits the previous year in 2021. Staff also has reviewed and provided comments to the municipal staff on 16 Planning Act applications in June, and for the total for the year, there's been 103. We're finding challenges keeping, retaining, finding park seasonal staff, specifically in a couple of the campgrounds. We've been running short since opening in the Norfolk and Haldeman campgrounds, but we're trying to continue to recruit, but it's been a very interesting year for staffing. So I don't even know how to explain it. It's just people, I guess, they just don't want to work, or they don't show up for interviews. It's just been interesting. They start, they quit, they don't show up. So it's been quite a challenge. We had staff, we had a kickoff meeting for the pay equity and compensation review with the consultant from Ward and Epic Grove. And we're starting down that process on getting all the job fact sheets updated. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for Judy? David?
It's a comment more than a question, Judy. As far as seasonal staff is concerned, I think municipalities will all share that they're experiencing the same difficulty retaining staff if it's hourly. I know right now in Tilsonburg, we have 5 lifeguards. That's it. Because kids can work at McDonald's or Burger King or wherever. It doesn't matter if it's raining or not. And for the summer jobs, if it's raining, they're gone home and they're not making the money. So I think this is felt not just here at the Conservation Authority, but in other areas with hourly seasonal staff. Due to weather conditions, people want to make their money, especially students, and they want to make it while they can in the summer. Put a little hay in the barn for back to school time, and they can't do that regularly. So it's not just here that that's felt.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything wrong. just the marketplace.
It's just frustrating.
I know.
Well, just a comment, I mean, I talk to different business people, they have the same problem. Staff requirement is tough. Anyway, I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receives the general manager update for June 2022's information. Stuart, are you moving it? Yes. And David. Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's approved. So then we move to the Lee Brown Marsh Management Committee membership, and Judy, you're going to speak to that.
Thank you. So this is to formalize the appointment of Lou Kochuk as a permanent member to the Lee Brown Marsh Management Committee. And as the chair mentioned, this is to fill a recent vacancy resulting from the passing of Barry Smith. So the background information's there, sort of the progression of the committee. And currently we have Tom Haskett, who's chair, Larry Chanda, Kim Brown. If Lou's approved, he'll be a new member. And then we have LPRCA Board of Directors rep John Schulten and Michael Columbus.
Any questions for Judy about this appointment? Seeing none, I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors confirms the appointment of Lou Kochuk as a permanent member of the Lee Brown Marsh Management Committee to fill the recent vacancy resulting from the passing of Barry Smith. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mike and Tom. Any further discussion? Those in, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would mention that Lou Kochuk is an excellent person to be appointed to that position. He's been a resident of Port Rowan and Long Point his whole life, and he's very familiar with the whole Marsh area, and he's an excellent appointee.
Thanks, Tom. I don't know him, but the other members of the Lee Brown Marsh Committee knew him, and he came highly recommended. I need a mover and a seconder. Oh, Mike and
Tom.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Pardon? Oh, sorry, Robert.
Mr. Chairman, it's not so much on the recommendation of the appointment, it's more on the report. I'm just looking at, what stands out to me is that the financial implications, the mileage that's paid to the members is 45 cents a kilometer. That should be adjusted because 45 cents a kilometer is not
Below cost.
is not appropriate in today's,
It's too low.
it's, in my opinion, it is.
So what should it be?
I don't know, but it should be the same as what we get paid
54 cents.
as a
This
director.
is that is the mileage rate that you get.
That's what you get now.
We get 45 cents.
It hasn't been adjusted for, I'd have to go back and look, but probably 5 years, 8 years.
We did look at it when we looked at the per diems for
The
board.
per diems went up.
We can review it for the
We can review it.
2023.
Yeah, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, because I thought we were paid more and
We can review it for the upcoming budget,
it should be because that's not appropriate when gas
because
is.
it would be the
$2.
rate for employees and board members and committee members.
Just a comment, I know that the township pays 54.
That's a top allowed rate.
Gilsenberg pays 59.
59.
9?
It's getting better all the time. Anybody gets more than that?
Zero.
You
Well,
get
Mr.
zero
Chairman,
mileage?
could I just suggest that that be reviewed and
Yeah.
perhaps report back
Yeah.
from the.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks.
Okay. And even though this is July, we're only 6 months into 2022. It seems that they want to discuss Christmas operating
Thanks, John.
5 months in advance.
So as in prior years, we bring a report to the board regarding the Christmas operating schedule. Historically, the authority has closed except for emergency purposes over the holiday break. If the board decides once again to grant staff one complimentary day with pay, staff would be required to use 2 days vacation or go unpaid for the 3 working days over the period. The office would be closed from December 28th to the 30th and reopen on Tuesday, January 3rd. Do you have any questions?
What day is Christmas on?
Christmas is on a Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yes.
So Monday is Boxing Day?
Monday's Boxing Day,
or-
Tuesdays.
or you-
Oh, no, Christmas.
No, you get 2 days.
2 days, yeah,
So Monday's Christmas, Tuesday's Boxing Day.
correct.
So that means there's 3 days left.
Yeah, so we close
So
one
one freebie and 2,
vacation days.
I got it. Any questions? Okay. I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors close operation for December 28th, December 30th, 2022, except for emergency response, and that staff working be granted 1 complimentary day off with pay, and that staff are required to utilize 2 vacation days during the period or take unpaid leave. Is there any discussion? Dave?
No. No discussion.
Those in favor?
I think you need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Motion.
Dave and Tom. I have a mover and a seconder. I'm just trying to move too quick here.
Trying to get to Christmas.
Any discussion?
Christmas is coming. you don't
Yes,
have to-
yes. Any
So it's
discussion?
not
No.
canceled due to COVID or anything like that.
Those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. So now we have the Silver Lake Revitalization Project. And Judy, you're gonna speak to that?
Actually, Lori's gonna take
Oh,
that.
Laurie.
Sure. So Silver Lake is behind Munster Stand in Port Dover. So a few years ago, Norfolk County repaired the dam up to its safety standards, the provincial safety standards, including having to lower the lake for safety reasons. And that exposed a lot of sediment that had been accumulating for 150 years in Silver Lake. So the Port Dover Waterfront Preservation Association has been, is a non-profit community organization that has been working towards doing work in Silver Lake to revitalize it and try and make it an attractive feature within the village again. And they have, they're currently at the stage where they are working towards, they're developing a fundraising strategy and communication strategy around a revitalization plan, including some of the technical and consultation work that they're going to have to do. And so they have asked for a renewed endorsement by the LPRCA board in support of the revitalization of Silver Lake. Now, they are basically asking for a support letter that they would be able to use as part of their gathering support for the project locally. The board did give support in, I'm going to recall 2008.
2008.
So they're basically asking for that support to be renewed. The objectives that they have for revitalizing the lake are very aligned with our purposes and objectives. And so staff is recommending that the board endorse LPRCA's support of the association's Silver Lake Revitalization Project, and that the board approves our sending the attached letter of support signed by the chair.
Are there any questions for Lori?
I just wanted to add, John and I met with these representatives, and they're putting a lot of thought, a lot of work into this project. Norfolk County did pay to put the dam in place, so the dam's been completed for the last 2 years. I forget what the cost was. It was several $1,000,000. And one of the members I know has a background in doing deed research. And he's been spending the last couple months trying to figure out where all the property lines are. Some go into the lake and some just have a defined area. And I just wanted to add that because I think the other good part about this, they're not asking for any money from LPRCA. Right, Lori?
No, they haven't requested any funds.
Good. So that's an important part too, because the deal was Norfolk County would repair the dam, but it was up to them to do what they wanted with respect to Silver Lake. That was kind of what was the final deal back in 2008.
Thanks, Mike. Just to add to that, they are just basically looking for a letter of support from the LPRCA, which is no different than what we normally do for this type of project. And I believe that this helps them with their fundraising activities, to know that LPRCA is in conjunction with them as far as what we normally would do. So we're not doing nothing extra. Any further questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors endorses LPRCA's support of the Port Dover Waterfront Preservation Association Silver Lake Revitalization Project, and that the board approves sending the attached letter of support signed by the chair. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Dave and Ian. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. So now we have a communications update, and Zach, I think you want to speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will try to keep this short and to the point, but this is just a brief summary of what I've been up to for communications for LPRCA and in the year to date. So to start things off, Jeremy, who is our IT contractor, helped me out, and we have managed to dramatically increase the website speed, which is just an improved experience for all visitors to the website. Jeremy was able to get our web host to allocate some more resources to our web server so that it runs faster. And then I implemented a caching plugin that just helps with the loading times. So we dropped from, on certain days, an average of about 7 seconds of loading per web page down to usually sub 1 second. So dramatically better user experience, and that's incredibly positive. Some new features that we've added to the website. I have implemented an email sign-up list for notifications when we issue flood updates. So on the flood forecasting and warning status page, there is a sign-up box. Anyone can go there, put their email in, they'll sign up to an email list, and then when we post to the newsroom that there has been a flood status change, they will get that email in their inbox. So if they're not partial to using social media like our Facebook and Twitter feeds, where we also announce this, they can sign up for these email updates. And although there have been no flood events driving people to that web page since this system has been implemented, some visitors to the website have already signed up. So that's positive to see, and I'm looking forward to this being useful as we move into the fall and flood events are a little more common. Drawing inspiration from some other Conservation Authority websites, I have also implemented a environmental investigation request form. This is just an online form where people who have a concern about something happening in their community and think that perhaps we as LPRCA might want to know about it, they can fill this out and submit it to us. And then the information they provide goes to the planning department, who can then take that information and act accordingly. It's just another way to reduce barriers between us and our community. So We've had plenty of visitors to the website in general so far this year. Over 23,000 have viewed more than 87,000 pages on the website. And the sorts of things that they're visiting and looking for are to be expected. People looking for hunting information, people looking for information on our campgrounds, and our planning tools as well, which is nice to see. Both the hunting map and the regulated area mapping are among the top 10 visited pages on the website. So it's good to see that the tools that we have available are being used by our communities. People are searching for us and finding us. They're looking on Google search engine for very specifically our conservation areas. Deer Creek is incredibly popular. That's at the top of the search results that are driving people to our website. Long Point Conservation, LPRCA, people who are looking for us are able to find us, which is always good, but I'm also going to be taking some steps in the near future to have us show up for some tangentially related searches. So if someone's searching for Southwestern Ontario camping, you know what, we provide that, we're going to show up in those search results. And ideally, we'll see some of those also appearing in our frequently used search terms. Along with our website, our social media has been doing well. We've been growing our audience on our 3 major platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook in particular has been growing substantially. And since July of last year, we've had a 20% increase in the number of followers on our Facebook page. A lot of that has actually been recent and driven by extensive sharing of the upcoming fishing derby posters. So the Deer Creek Fishing Derby had almost 20,000 views on Facebook, and the Bacchus Derby that's happening this coming Saturday, its event poster had nearly 15,000 views on Facebook. So there's clearly an appetite there for people who want an outdoor activity to go fishing with their kids, and should be an exciting time. In light of this tremendous interest, particularly at Deer Creek, which is a sort of smaller venue, we also implemented an online ticketing system for this fishing derby. So the Deer Creek Derby, you can pre-register, purchase a ticket in advance, and this is done through our online donation platform that we had implemented recently on the website anyway. Canada Helps, they process our gift donations, but they also do event ticketing at no additional cost to us. They take a service fee from each ticket sold. So it's nice that we already have that existing service. We were able to easily onboard with these ticket sales. We've seen some come through, even though the Deer Creek Derby is still a month away. People are definitely gearing up to get out and get fishing. Beyond our online presence, we've got some print advertising presence. Recently, the Daycation advertising campaign kicked off in the local Post media newspapers. So for us, that is the Norfolk and Tillsonburg News and the Simcoe Reformer. We have ads booked for essentially an 11-month campaign, and we will be focusing on encouraging people to experience our conservation areas, whether visiting during the day or staying overnight during a midweek time frame. So those places are fun to visit. They're great experiences on the weekends, but they're also open and available and even less busy during the week. So hopefully we can grab some attention, grab some eyes, and get some more people visiting midweek in the summer. And now that kids are getting out of school, I anticipate we'll see some midweek visitor numbers going up, and we'll aim to capitalize on that with these print advertisements. You also get some geo-targeted website advertising on the Post media websites. So people in the region who are visiting their online websites and their Facebook pages will see our advertisements as well, which is nice to see. Some other good news, we got some applicants for the Leighton and Betty Brown Conservation Scholarship. And just recently, the selection committee met and made their decisions on the applicants there. And so we'll be proceeding with presenting those awards shortly. That will be coming up in August. Turning back the clock a little bit, we got some funding from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs last year to develop some videos relating to best management practices along municipal drainways. And so we here at LPRCA, in collaboration with Norfolk County staff, put together a couple videos about how municipalities, conservation authorities, and landowners, agricultural landowners, can work together to help reduce nutrient loading and runoff from agricultural lands into municipal drains. So we filmed a couple videos that were put together and put up on our YouTube channel. One of those is public facing because it's for landowners, and the other was distributed directly to municipal drainage staff. And both those videos were received very, very positively, which is good to see. Finally, Conservation Ontario has recently relaunched and rebranded, or I guess not a rebrand, but a visual update of the Ontario Conservation Areas.ca website. This is sort of a central hub for all conservation authorities throughout Ontario to list their conservation areas that are available. So we've provided some updated imagery, updated descriptions, and have been listed on this snazzy new website that is getting lots of traffic and is a very useful resource for people looking to explore Ontario and the different places to see. So that wraps up the majority of the work that I've been doing lately. And in the future, I'll be continuing to promote those fishing derbies that are coming up soon. We have an advertising campaign related to cover crop incentives that will be starting shortly in the Ontario Farmer publication. And then, as I mentioned, those dedication advertisements to focus on midweek visits to conservation authorities is going to be a big focus. Looking a little farther ahead, just to round things out, we are approaching 75 years of conservation since the establishment of our two prior conservation authorities, Big Creek and Otter Creek Conservation Authority. Next year will be 75 years since those, or Big Creek was established 75 years ago next year. And I will be assembling some communications and some events planning relating to that throughout the town. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer. Sorry for dragging on a little bit there.
Well, thank you, Zachary. You've done a lot of work, and obviously it's paying dividends. And does anyone have questions for Zachary? Dave?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Zachary. In the past, you talked about the flood updating and people signing up to get copies of this. In the past, board members have received it, the media has received it, municipalities have received it. Will that remain, or should we go online and sign up if we've been taken off the list?
No, that list will remain. That is a direct actionable list that we, or the flood forecasting and warning team, sends that out directly. There's usually a little bit more information there. That's for the sort of municipal flood coordinators.
Right.
This is a purely public facing. It is the body text of what is posted in the newsroom that just gets automatically sent out. You are more than welcome to go sign up and get that to your personal emails, but there's still going to be that flood forecasting and warning update sent out anyway.
Right. Yeah. A supplementary question, Mr. Chairman, completely different. On websites for conservation authorities, has there been any thought to revenue generation by selling some advertising, perhaps bed and breakfast in our watershed area, more tourism things that has been offered? Now, I'm sure you can't answer that question, but I'm just putting it out there for our general management and our finance team to maybe consider and investigate whether others are doing this. Is an acceptable practice, and is it possible to do some revenue generation while helping our community partners get the word out there for their potential customers? And that's a statement, not a question.
Right.
All right.
I mean, I can just jump on that and say that I haven't seen any other conservation authority websites implementing that.
Right.
But I do know that we use something sort of along those lines in terms of our visitor's guide is funded through Post Media. They produce it and sell advertisements to local businesses and then essentially print that at cost for us. So our visitor's guide doesn't cost anything. I'm sure Judy would be open to discussions and exploration of possibly implementing something similar for the website as well.
I'll just throw that out there.
Absolutely, thank you.
Stuart, you got a question?
Let Tom go ahead first.
Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Stu. Zach, I'm not sure if you are best able to answer this question or maybe our general manager, but I just find it absolutely amazing that our smallest site gets the most hits. I'm just wondering if there's any explanation for why that is.
If I will, through you, Mr. Chair, to you, Tom. It's an incredibly lovely spot to be.
Agreed.
It's sort of what
And
it
that
boils
was my
down
first
to.
impression. That's got to be the answer. I just, there might be some other reason.
I mean, it photographs really, really well. And that is evidenced in that the fact that a lot of our promotional material does feature photos of Deer Creek fairly prominently. Word of mouth is very powerful, and we get lots of positive Google reviews. People posting photos of the fish that they catch there and their kayaking trips and that sort of stuff. So I think it is largely a product of it is a popular area, so it gets talked about a lot, and then people are searching it out specifically because of that.
Okay, thank you, Zach. And Mr. Chair, another question. Zach, the environmental investigation request form that's online now, and I know it's relatively new, but how often has that been accessed?
The submissions are currently sent directly to the planning team, their shared email inbox. So I haven't seen the latest numbers, but it was implemented just a couple weeks ago, and we've already had 2 or 3 submissions that I'm aware of personally. It could be higher than that. So it is definitely being used, and hopefully it will continue to be a useful resource going forward.
Okay, great. Thanks, Zach. And Mr. Chair, just one more quick one. Zach, just something, when I was going through the website the other day, I just noticed that all of our sites indicate the total number of campsites at each place, with the exception of Waterford North. There is no total number, so I don't know. Maybe you
I will
can-
make a note and fix that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Stuart.
Yeah, thanks, John, through you, and remind me, I won't let Tom go before me, then we have one question, but just a comment. I really like the stay station, like the advertisements that you're doing on a weekly basis, and I realize it's up and running now, and there's a set budget. But basically Norfolk and Tillsonburg newspapers, I'm just wondering, have you thought, could we say send a link or send a digital ad when it's ready to go in the paper to say Haldeman County, they could get it on their website just to make people familiar that, hey, come to Haldeman Park and blah, 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 you know, give it a boost that way. I know it's too late to get in local papers, say in the Sac and the Haldeman Press, but even, you know, I don't know what your back and forth is with the county, but I mean, I could give you a contact, right? That would be, for the sake of it, be easy to do. And if people want to visit it, then they'll be aware.
Absolutely. Yes, no, and these visual advertisements that are assembled, I can certainly run them in other locations. I am putting them up on our social media feeds in conjunction with the week that they run in the newspaper. And I can certainly tag the Haldeman Reporter as well. I will also explore their local publications. I also saw just this past week, actually, that the Haldeman Tourism Facebook page in particular was posting about the Haldeman Conservation Area. So there is material circulating out there, and I will continue to expand where we're marketing.
Any other questions for Zach? Oh, Ian.
Thank you. Through you, I had a question about social media accounts and sponsoring or boosting posts. Are we currently sponsoring or boosting posts specifically on the Facebook platform? And if not, is that something that you might consider budgeting for? Is it baked into the advertising budget, or is this not something we're currently doing?
So it's not something that I've done yet this year. I haven't paid to promote any of our social media posts to date, but there is room in the advertising budget to do so for whatever I would propose to Judy. Sort of, here's what I think we could get for X dollar value. Shall we go for it? So definitely open to doing so.
Understood. I would think I would, in response, I would have a comment that perhaps we should think strategically about boosting or sponsoring posts. And I do see a couple of items listed here that are pertaining to employment. And if that's an area that we're lacking, perhaps that would be a strategic use of those dollars if we wanted to sponsor or boost a post. I'm glad to hear that you would we would view that there is some room within the current advertising budget, or perhaps that's something that should be revisited when we're doing our next budget. The landscape is really changing for media, traditional print and radio. Those ad dollars aren't reaching as broad an audience as these new platforms are, and specifically Facebook. I know that boosted posts do reach a larger audience. You can also target a specific geographical area, which I think would be a benefit to us. I did have another question, but I'm starting to lose it now. Oh, yeah, this might be a non sequitur. This might be an odd one. So for the flood alerts, is there an ability to have those sent out by text message or phone number in addition to email? Is that something that is very cumbersome or expensive and time consuming for staff? What would your thoughts be on sending a text message out, much like you get a hydro alert?
Yes, so there are platforms that do facilitate that. And I've actually spoken with a couple of services that do offer it. Pricing is pretty expensive comparatively. So that's why this email launch is an initial step to get sort of an appetite, a sense of what the community would be looking for. If we're seeing that this is something that people want, and then we start getting those comments of, oh, I'd love this. If it was a text message, then we'll know for sure that maybe it's worth a fairly hefty yearly subscription for a service such as Alert. I don't know if that's a name that rings any bells for you, but a number of the larger CAs are using Alertable to sort of geo-target their flood alerts.
Thanks for your answers, Zachary. Appreciate it.
Mike, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Zach, in past years, we've had some people always in the audience. We haven't seen that for quite some time. And there used to be, as Ian mentioned, there was news media like hard printed copy, reporters sitting in the meeting, but that don't happen anymore. With social media, I guess, kind of taken over. And our meetings are cast over on YouTube, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so what is are people watching our meetings?
Not many.
Not many. What's the like 5, 10 after meeting, or how many we get?
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate. 5 to 10 views on the videos, and people aren't sitting through the full video. They may click around a little bit. If there's something of particular interest to them, the recording is accessible there for them to watch. But there's not, as of right now, seemingly a huge appetite for those videos. It is nice that we do maintain the public record, though.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions for Zach? Seeing none, I have a motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors receives the communications update, July 2022 report as information. Can I have a mover in a second? Tom? And Robert. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Okay. Now we are. Motion that the LPRCA Board of Directors does now enter into closed session to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including employees of the authority, and trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the authority, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiation of a person, group of persons, or organizations. Can I have a mover and second? Ian and Dave. So those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. So we are now in closed session. So I have a motion that the LPRCA, just a minute here, I gotta find that. I have it at my fingertip. LPRCA Board of Directors accepts the bid submitted by Townsend Lumber, Inc. for the marked standing timber at the Nemeth Tract LP -342-22 hardwoods for a total tender price of $128. That is $793. $793. Any discussion? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder. Ian and Dave. Those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. I don't need 16, right?
No.
No, okay. That the LPRCA Board of Directors accepts the bid submitted by Justin Oliveira and Mark Standing Timber at the Gage Track LP 343-2022 conifers for a total tender price of $5,000. Any discussion? Mover and a second. Tom and Stuart. Those in favor? That's passed. Thank you for your participation. This meeting is now adjourned.